All right. So first things first, how are you?
I'm really well, thank you. How are you?
I'm not too bad. Thank you for asking. Before we start with the new music and the album and everything, I'd like to jump back a little bit because there's one question I had when reading your kind of biography and your background. Now, your mother is a classical or a concert pianist, and you started playing quite early. Was there ever a time where you thought about going down that route, the classical route, and becoming this pianist?
Um, yeah, definitely. I think that's something I sort of just imagined would happen when I was really young because it was, I mean, my mum was my teacher, so um it was only when I got to like 13, 14 and started releasing music that we didn't have lessons so much. So um I mean, it's still something I would love to get to that level. I kind of had to stop having lessons with her because it's so hard when your parent is your teacher. You kind of just, because you don't have that fear,
Sure.
where you're like, oh my God, I haven't practiced. I'm meeting with my teacher today. Like, normally that's an incentive to practice is when you don't know someone that well. So it was hard with my mum. And I think she got fed up with me just like messing around. Um, yeah, I'd love to get to that level. She still teaches me now, we still have
Okay.
lessons every now and again. Yeah.
Because I can imagine seeing what it entails to become a pianist of that level, and then also the type of music that you play, and it can be quite rigid at times. When did your own kind of creativity join up with the piano playing? And as you mentioned, you started writing your own stuff.
Um, I was very young. I was like 7 when I started
Okay.
writing. And I started on the piano first, like just, I kind of discovered that I could make a chord out of three
Mm.
notes. And it's not something my mum had really taught me because we were learning classical. Um, and so I was just like kind of fascinated how I could make a tune. And then when I was 8, I think that's when I wrote my first song with a vocal on it. And I didn't really know. I just thought, what would it be like if I sang on top? Maybe I could do it at the same time. And then I was just really inspired by it. Um, but my parents said that they used to listen when I first started doing it. They were like so amazed that they would listen at the bottom of the stairs and just be like, what's wrong with her? Why is she? Because the songs were so sad. Like they're always about heartbreak or like, I don't know, they're really, really sad. And they're like, what's she gone through? Like why? It's very strange.
Do you remember what compelled you to write, and especially to put thoughts onto paper? And obviously, when you're young, I don't know how much heartbreak you had already experienced at that point, but yeah, what compelled you to put words to paper and kind of create something?
Uh I don't really know. I was definitely drawn to the piano. I loved like just I mean my earliest memory is like being in my cot like and hearing my mum play the piano
Okay.
in practice. So like that I think it's so much a part of me, the sound of the piano. And I was very drawn to it. And but the storytelling, I don't know. I mean, my dad is a writer, and
Mm.
an amazing storyteller, and I think that uh, the love of that came from him. So, um, but I mean, I don't really know. I guess when I was young, I always had a sense of I don't know. I always felt like that something was missing a little bit, and I don't know if that's like a maybe it depends if you believe in it or not, or like a past life thing. And
Mm.
I always, when I was young, I always had that sense of like I'm missing someone or something, and I tended to write about that feeling a lot. Um, and I don't
And
know anything to it or not, but
no, but
uh,
I have to ask then, has that feeling gone away, or is there still a semblance of that within you?
I think it's still there. But I think it's stronger when you're a child, and that's being closer to the life you were living before, maybe.
This is quite an interesting bridge, I suppose, to the new album then, because quite recently, I've been talking to quite some artists about making music and kind of recapturing that youthful naivety that they had when they kind of started out. And I think that's somewhat true, at least for you and how you kind of approach your career. So how do you perceive kind of because music does become a business, even though you were and you were successful at a quite a young age, but it does become a business. So how did you kind of recalibrate to the more creative side again?
I think it's just in your brain. It's just like how you think of things, and I've definitely gone through moments of like feeling like, oh, I need to make this so that this person will like it, or so that it will get played here, or and I hate it when that's what's in my head when I'm trying to write, because it just never makes something that's authentic, or it never makes something that's like kind of exciting, I don't think. Or you kind of put yourself in a box a bit. And so I had a lot of fun making this new record because I guess because it's more kind of up tempo and like more instant. Everyone was kind of happy around me because I guess it's more commercial, but it was something that was happening naturally, and it wasn't something I was thinking about. So it was it made the process much easier for me, and like it made me be able to be free and kind of, yeah, it's more enjoyable.
What allowed you to do this? Because if we look at all the albums, every album I would say has been kind of a step in a different direction, but also an evolution. For instance, if we take Young Hearts, I think it's a more personal album. You were hiding, especially in the lyrics, kind of more inward looking, perhaps. So how do you see this next step then for the new album? What happened after Young Hearts? Where's the emphasis now?
Well, I think it came from making Young Heart, because it was such a difficult record for me, and even though I love it so much, and it will always be like my kind of the record that feels the most like me, I guess, at my core. But it was hard because it was about heartbreak, and I was going through a lot of writer's block because of that, and just letting go of the record was very hard for me. So it took 5 years to get it down and to put it out.
Did the pandemic have an influence on that? For instance, were you finished earlier, or did you need those 5 years?
We just finished it before the lockdown, and so so it did actually take that long. And then I was, and then we were like mixing it through the lockdown, so it was kind of fine. But yeah, it just took such a long time. And then I just thought, going into this record, I couldn't, there was no way like in me I could do another sad song or make a record that was the same as that. I just was like, I just want to kind of move away from that and do something else.
Yeah, there does seem to be a lot of urgency in a way, especially musically on this new album. Was a song like Paradise Calling then one of the first that kind of came to be because of its up-tempo and energetic nature?
No, that was actually towards the end of the record.
Okay.
I felt like there wasn't enough of that feeling. And I was like, I just want one more song that feels like really instant and like you're in straight away. But it was a lot of fun doing that one. We kind of wrote it to the drums first, because that was like the only way I could sort of get into that feeling. I mean, it's very hard writing at the piano, I find. Like I'm just immediately led back into doing a sad ballad. So
no, but you mentioned something interesting, because that's one of the things I wondered. Young Hearts, you went to I believe LA and Nashville or Tennessee, and it was more inspired by the 70s Laurel Canyon feel, and that's kind of acoustic guitar a lot as well. So I was wondering how you wrote these songs. Was it mostly on piano, or what was the approach this time around?
This was a lot of it was on synth, or like so much piano, because I just like I wanted to be out of my comfort zone a bit.
Right.
And also writing to drums and drum machines. And sometimes like writing the lyrics first sort of helped just snap out of my normal routine. Yeah, it was interesting, but a lot of it was actually a visual inspiration.
Okay.
More than the music first. It was kind of, I was looking at PJ Harvey and Portishead and like Patti Smith at the beginning of the record, and I just that kind of more grungy, like gothic feeling. I think I was really inspired by that and was making mood boards, and so I think that fed into the music just being a bit more brooding and kind of and darker.
Can you share one or two words that were on that mood board, kind of the things that you honed in on? Is it like you said, the kind of a moody thing or a gothic element?
Yeah, it's definitely more gothic. There's a lot of like, it was kind of more almost like how it would feel on stage, and so very dark but with very bright light, kind of like the album cover, which is that projection onto me. But it's very bright light at the front, and then kind of a bit of a void in the back. And yeah, it was a lot moodier. There's a lot of purple on there, which I don't know. I was kind of obsessed with that. Not purple, but like that kind of dusty pink and maroons and black and white. And a lot of that probably came from Kate Bush as well. I was looking inspired by Hands of Love a lot on this record. But yeah, it was kind of nice to do it that way, to like create a world and then like fit the music to that.
Well, the two things. Well, first, very quickly, talking about Kate Bush, what made her so special? Because she's been an influence to so many people, and her music seems to resurface every couple of years in a way. So what is it about the way she approached music that makes it so interesting?
I think that it's just so unpredictable is what I love about it. It's so just and also it feels to me that there's like a classical or I guess folk influence, but then it's disguised with synth and yeah, that's what I loved on this record was electronic drums and sounds mixed with an acoustic and like folk feeling, which is something that she does really beautifully, I think, and it just creates this otherworldly world.
Sure.
It's just kind of, it's kind of timeless, which is really beautiful. It's like, it's not traditional and it's not modern. It's just in this its own space, which is really cool.
And what I find interesting then with what you mentioned earlier, the way the cover is shaped with you in the light and then kind of the darker colors around you. When I listen to this album, maybe this is just my interpretation, and I don't know if it's right, but this album, your voice seems to be at the forefront, perhaps a little bit more. I could, in certain songs like I Wish I Was a Shooting Star, your voice really shines through. So those moments where there's it's not silence, but yeah, I don't know how to phrase this well, but your voice is right up front and kind of naked in a sense. What was it like doing the vocal lines and the vocal approach for this album? I didn't explain that right.
No, you did. I think you're right. I think it was like I wanted the vocal to be like quite commanding on this album, and like I had a feeling of like, and this is also just sonically in the music as well, it's of it being like exercising a ghost a bit, and like just wanting to be breaking through something. And I think that came from just the hardship of the previous record and feeling quite like it was a bit of a battle, that record, to do what I wanted to do. And I was so exhausted from it. And I think I just wanted that feeling of like, I can make a record that's so different to that, and it still be me and still be authentic and believe it. And so I think it had all those feelings in there. And yeah, I think I go through phases. I mean, I think it's more similar to Beautiful Lies, my third record, the way I'm singing on it. And it's not so inward. It's all kind of out and for stage and like dramatic.
Is that something you had to learn with time? Because as I mentioned earlier, and then you've been told probably by so many people, you entered the music industry at quite a young age, and then you're still developing. I mean, your brain isn't finished developing until you're 25 or 26 or something. So that process, you mean kind of knowing that you can be authentic without having to acquiesce to every desire of someone else. Is that something you had to learn, or how did you kind of arrive at that point where you can now feel, okay, I can do this by myself. I have my own ideas. I don't need I don't need anything to guide me to be authentic.
I think it helps on this record just because it's just naturally more commercial, I guess. And so I didn't have that pressure of, write a song that's really fast or write a song that's like got some movement to it.
Right.
Normally it's all ballads, which is a difficult thing, I think, when the whole record is like that. So I kind of, normally that's sort of in my head, oh, I've got to get a song that's like that's different and kind of has more movement. But this one was like the opposite, but it was just natural, and I think that was just luck. I didn't think I was like, it wasn't a conscious thing. It was just how I felt this time. But it also has shown me that I can make something that still feels like me, that has drums and that is really different to what I normally do. So that's been a nice learning thing.
Yeah, and I think also it's sometimes it's difficult to see yourself as a certain thing, but then to realize that we aren't just these one-dimensional people, that there are different aspects to our personality or to our so that's really cool to see you explore all those things. You mentioned earlier that sometimes you just started with a line or maybe just a bit of lyric. Is there one that sticks out to you, one for which you had perhaps a line for a long time, or something that you really wanted to say in this album?
Trying to think which song. I Ruins, actually, well, there's two songs called Ruins 1 and 2. But Ruins 2, I had the verse for like 5 or 6 years. And I just couldn't finish the song, but I started writing a chorus, and the word ruins was in it, and like a few other words. But then that lyric, we were actually writing a different song that day, Ruins 1, and so the lyric had been in my mind, so that the lyric came out, and I was like, no, but I've got this other song that's meant to be called this, and so then we ended up writing both, and they're kind of opposite stories, which I thought actually it's kind of nice to have two songs that are kind of sister songs. But I don't know, I'm trying to think what other ones that had a lyric first. I think Battlefield I wrote, that was like a poem. I wrote it kind of like poetry first. And it's nicer when that happens, because you kind of, it's so much easier when you like know what the song's about. Normally you're just like kind of searching, you have a few words and you're trying to piece it together, but that one like came out very fully and was like, I know what it's about. And yeah.
What kind of mindset were you in when you wrote Battlefield?
That one's quite a sad song. It's about like not wanting to lose someone, and how like life can just be unfair sometimes, and it's just strange how stuff happens and it's out of your control. And so it was kind of a sad one to write, but also it's quite like a passionate song. So but yeah, I wrote most of it, and then there was a few bits which I couldn't make fit, and I brought it to my friend Anya, and we finished it together. But yeah, it's a good song, a special song to me, that one.
Yeah, well, because what you mentioned just now is quite interesting. Usually when it isn't immediately clear what a song is about. It will take a couple of months, and then maybe you're on stage somewhere, and at one moment it hits you like, oh, this is what I'm thinking about. So have there been songs already that kind of shifted in where they started in terms of how you interpret them to where they are now?
On this new record.
Yeah, well, where kind of meanings have revealed themselves to you?
Yeah, that always it happens a lot. And it's always something that's like happened that you don't realize. It's just in your subconscious, and then you feel so. It was strange with Raincatchers. I kind of knew that I wanted to write. I was writing it about my friend and about how close we were when we were growing up, and then like when I started doing music, it was, I think, very difficult for her because I sort of just disappeared. And we were inseparable, and then suddenly I was just gone, and like I was so overwhelmed with what I was doing, you know. I kind of just, yeah, I disappeared, and then so it was about that and like remembering when we were young. But when we were writing it, she weirdly texted me like that day saying, "I miss you," and I thought it was so strange. I guess when you're just thinking about someone that much, maybe they sort of are aware of it. I don't know, but that was quite. I felt like that was quite a witchy moment that happened.
Let's end on that then, because you mentioned kind of the potential pressure there was on previous albums in terms of commercial success, and I don't know how you've experienced this, but with what you just now mentioned, I think you started getting some popularity around age 14, 15, I believe. So you were still in school and kind of having to live kind of two separate lives in that moment, where one, I think you were still going to school, right?
Yeah.
So trying to be a normal kid, and then on the other hand, kind of doing these things that most kids can't even fathom. What was that like, balancing those two worlds? And like you said, by having to make sacrifices in terms of friendships, in terms of how you spend your time.
Mm-hmm. It was very strange. I mean, I think I became a little bit removed in my head because obviously there was just this whole other thing happening in my life, which was so exciting. And I was part of a band and we were touring together. And you get so kind of, when you're away on tour, you just get so I don't know what the word is, but just it's hard to just kind of be in real life because your brain is just so taken up with that group of people in that world, and so I think it was kind of hard to go back to being at school and suddenly just being 15 and like and thinking about like, you know, just I don't know, things that my friends were doing, and but I don't know, I'm still close to people that I grew up with, and like my friend who I wrote the song about, we're still really good friends. So I'm grateful I could keep some of those friendships. But yeah, it was strange. A lot of it's very blurry to me from that time.
No, but that's good to hear. And again, I think with age, that balancing act becomes a little bit easier. But that finally, then with Portraits, and I believe it's coming out 18th of August. What do you hope then that people will hear in it? And in terms of, yeah, success is an interesting word, but when would the album be a success in your eyes?
I mean, I'm happy with it. So it already is to me, because I mean that's kind of all I want from the record, is to enjoy it and to feel like I did my best on it. So I'm just like, I hope it's kind of a bit of a shock in a way to people. I kind of want it to do that a little bit. But then I don't want people to feel like they've lost something that they like as well. So I hope that they can, even though the songs aren't maybe like an obvious ballad, like deep ballad, I think the lyrics, actually, if you strip them back, there are kind of deep stories there, and I hope people still feel that and still feel connected to what I'm saying, I mean, yeah, it's funny. It's like I can't not write a sad song, so they are sad, but they're just like up tempo sad songs. They're like power ballads.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point because if you do listen to the lyrics, there is still some melancholy in it, and then some sadness. And but if you just listen to the music, it's quite upbeat and synthy, so it kind of picks you up. So is that a challenge balancing those two things, or is it kind of just the way it turns out?
I think it's just the way, because if anything gets too happy, I'm like, I don't know, I can't do it.
Without sorry to sound like a psychoanalyst, but have you ever tried to figure out why that is?
No, but I think it's kind of what I going back to what I said earlier about just like being surrounded with my mum playing classical music when I was very young, and it was always quite mournful, and like I just think the piano is a mournful instrument.
I agree, yeah.
And so I think that just obviously formed the way I feel, the way I write music. The things that I find beautiful are it's in the sad sounding things. So
May I thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me.
thank you. Thanks for having me. It was really nice.